Helen Carter stood in the middle of the huge meeting room and felt very small. The ceiling was so high she could barely see it. Strange lights floated in the air without touching anything. Around her sat creatures that looked nothing like humans. Some had scales that changed colors. Others had tentacles that moved like snakes. A few looked like walking crystals that sparkled when they moved. This was the Galactic Council. Every important species in this part of space had someone here. Helen was the only human in the room. She wore her best blue suit and tried to look calm. Inside, her heart was beating very fast. "Human," said a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. The translator box on her belt made the words clear in English. "You have been called here to answer for your planet." Helen looked at the creature who spoke. Commander was 7 feet tall with green and gold scales. His eyes were yellow and had no pupils. Behind him sat 2 other aliens from his planet. They all wore dark uniforms with strange symbols. "I am here to represent Earth," Helen said clearly. Her voice echoed in the big room. "What do you want to discuss?" Stood up. His uniform made soft clicking sounds as he moved. "Your people have been part of our trade group for 5 years. You buy our technology. You use our space routes. You take our protection when pirates attack your ships, but you give us nothing back." Helen felt her face get warm. "That is not true. We trade metals and food. We share our art and music. We help with research projects." "Rocks and songs," said another alien. This one had blue skin and 4 arms. "You offer us rocks and songs while we give you the secrets of faster-than-light travel." A creature that looked like a giant spider clicked its mandibles. "The humans hide behind our fleet when danger comes. They are weak and useless." Helen wanted to argue, but she knew they had some truth in their words. Earth was new to space travel. They had learned everything from these aliens. Human ships were small and simple compared to the massive war vessels that protected the trade routes. Commander walked closer to Helen. Each step made a heavy sound on the metal floor. We have been patient with your species. We hoped you would grow stronger, but you remain children playing with toys. What do you want from us? Helen asked. Proof, said. Proof that humans deserve to stay in our alliance. Proof that you can fight for yourselves. Proof that you are not just taking our help for free. The room became very quiet. Helen could hear her own breathing. She looked around at all the alien faces watching her. Some looked angry. Others looked bored. A few seemed curious about what would happen next. What kind of proof? She asked. Smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp and too many. A demonstration of power. Show us your weapons. Show us your strongest ships. Show us that humans can be warriors, not just traders and artists. Helen felt cold inside. Earth did have weapons, but nothing like what these aliens possessed. Human warships were fast but small. Their weapons were clever but not very powerful. In a real fight against any of these species, Earth would lose badly. How long do we have? She asked. 30 solar cycles, said the blue-skinned alien. 30 of your days. If you cannot prove your worth, Earth will be removed from the Alliance. Your ships will be banned from our space routes. Your people will be on their own. Helen knew what that meant. Without the alien trade routes, Earth's colonies would be cut off. Without alien protection, human ships would be easy targets for pirates. Without alien technology, Earth's progress would stop. And if we refuse this test? Helen asked, though she already knew the answer. The spider-like creature laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Then you prove our point. You are too weak to be our allies. The galaxy has no place for cowards. Helen looked at the back of the room where Captain Jake sat in his military uniform. He was the only other human here. Jake had been quiet during the whole meeting, but now he gave her a small nod. His face was serious but not worried. That made Helen feel a little better. Earth accepts your challenge, Helen said in a loud, clear voice. We will demonstrate our capabilities, but we choose when, where, and how. Commander tilted his head like a curious animal. You may choose the place and time, but the demonstration must be real. No tricks, no games. Show us true power or face the consequences. Agreed, Helen said. We will contact you with the details. The meeting ended with formal words and procedures. One by one, the aliens left the room. Some gave Helen looks that seemed almost sorry for her. Others appeared happy, like they were watching a show. A few just ignored her completely. Soon only Helen and Jake were left in the huge room. The floating lights dimmed automatically. Helen sat down hard in one of the chairs. Her legs felt weak. Well, Jake said quietly, that could have gone worse. Helen looked at him with surprise. Worse? Jake, they just threatened to kick humanity out of space. Jake walked over and sat next to her. Helen, I've been in the military for 20 years. I know the difference between a real threat and a test. They're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to understand us. What do you mean? Think about it, Jake said. If they really wanted us gone, they would just do it. They don't need an excuse. But instead, they're giving us a chance to prove ourselves. That means they want us to succeed. Helen rubbed her forehead. She felt tired. But Jake, what can we possibly show them? Our biggest warship is smaller than their shuttlecraft. Our most powerful weapon couldn't scratch their armor. Jake smiled for the first time since the meeting started. Helen, you're thinking like they do. You're thinking that power means big guns and thick armor. But humans have always been different. We don't win fights by being the strongest. We win by being the. So what do we do? Jake stood up and looked at the empty alien seats. We give them exactly what they asked for, a demonstration of power, but we show them what human power really looks like. Helen didn't understand, but she trusted Jake. He had never let her down before. As they walked out of the council chamber, she hoped that humanity's greatest strength would be enough to save them. The next 30 days would decide Earth's future in the galaxy. 3 weeks after the meeting with the aliens, Helen Carter stood on the bridge of the EDS Defiant. The ship floated in space above Earth, surrounded by the busy orbital shipyards. Through the large windows, she could see her home planet turning slowly below. The blue oceans and white clouds looked so peaceful from up here. But Helen knew there was nothing peaceful about what was happening. All around the Defiant, workers in space suits moved quickly from ship to ship. Cargo vessels brought supplies. Military ships practiced flying in formation. Everyone on Earth knew about the alien challenge now, and everyone was working to help. "Admiral Brooks will see you now," said a young officer. Helen followed him through the ship's corridors. The Defiant was the most advanced ship in Earth's fleet, but it still felt small compared to the alien vessels she had seen. Admiral Lisa Brooks was waiting in her ready room. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Helen had known Lisa for many years, back when they were both young officers learning about space travel from their alien teachers. "Helen," Lisa said, standing up to shake her hand. "I'm glad you made it up here. We need to talk about the demonstration. Have you decided what we're going to show them?" Helen asked as she sat down. Lisa poured 2 cups of coffee and handed one to Helen. "That's what I want to discuss. Jake has been working with our science teams. They have some interesting ideas." The door opened and Jake walked in, followed by a woman Helen didn't recognize. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with brown hair tied back in a ponytail. She carried a tablet computer and looked excited about something. "Helen, this is Dr. Foster," Jake said. "She's our top scientist for the new project." She shook Helen's hand with enthusiasm. "Ambassador Carter, it's an honor to meet you. I've read all your reports about alien technology. Your observations about their energy systems were very helpful." "Thank you," Helen said, though she wasn't sure what meant. "What project are you working on?" Lee looked at Admiral Brooks, who nodded. "Show her," Lisa said. Touched her tablet and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed a star system with several planets and a large field of asteroids between them. This is the 442 system. No intelligent life. No colonies. Just empty space and rocks. The aliens agreed to this location for the demonstration, Jake added. It's neutral territory, safe for everyone to watch. Helen studied the hologram. What exactly are we planning to demonstrate there? His eyes lit up. Something that will change how they think about humans forever. But first, let me ask you a question. What do the aliens think power means? Helen thought about the council meeting. Big weapons, strong armor, the ability to destroy things. Exactly, said. They measure strength by how much damage they can cause. Their ships are built like flying fortresses. Their weapons can crack planets, but they're missing something important. What? Helen asked. Dr. Foster touched her tablet again. The hologram changed to show the inside of an atom, with electrons spinning around the nucleus. They understand how to use energy, but they don't really understand what energy is. They can build fusion reactors, but they treat them like bigger versions of fire. They can manipulate gravity, but only in simple ways. Jake leaned forward. Show her the test results. The hologram changed again. Now it showed a small rock floating in space. As Helen watched, the rock began to change shape. It stretched and twisted, forming new patterns. Then it began to glow with a soft light. Is this real? Helen asked. Completely real, said proudly. We recorded this test 3 days ago. We're not just moving the rock or heating it up. We're changing it at the most basic level, rearranging its atoms, making it into whatever we want. Helen stared at the image. How is this possible? Quantum resonance manipulation, explained. We've learned to talk to atoms in their own language. Instead of forcing them to change with heat or pressure, we convince them to change by themselves. Admiral Brooks set down her coffee cup. Helen, what you're looking at represents 20 years of human research. While the aliens were teaching us to copy their technology, our scientists were trying to understand why it worked. and we discovered something they missed. What did we discover? Helen asked. Jake smiled. We discovered that the universe isn't just a machine you can push around with enough force. It's more like a song. And if you know the right notes to play, you can make it sing along with you. Nodded eagerly. The aliens use brute force. They slam particles together until something happens. But humans learned to be gentle. We ask nicely instead of demanding. And the universe responds much better to politeness. Helen looked around the room at the three faces watching her. And you want to demonstrate this to the Alien Council. Not just demonstrate, Lisa said. We want to teach them. Show them that there's a better way to interact with the physical world. A way that doesn't require massive ships or planet-killing weapons. But will they understand the message? Helen asked. Jake leaned back in his chair. Helen, remember what I told you after the council meeting. Humans don't win by being the strongest. We win by being but there's more to it than that. What do you mean? We also win by being kind, Jake said simply. The aliens challenged us to show our power. They expect us to threaten them back. Instead, we're going to offer them a gift. Knowledge they can use to make their own lives better. Dr. Foster pulled up another image on her tablet. It showed the EDS Defiant flying toward a large asteroid. The demonstration will be simple. We'll take one of the asteroids in the 442 system and reshape it. Not destroy it, not mine it, but transform it into something beautiful and useful. The energy requirements are minimal, she continued. What would take them a fleet of ships and days of work, we can do with one small vessel in a few hours. Admiral Brooks stood up and walked to the window. Earth hung in space below them, blue and green and alive. Helen, in all of human history, we've faced challenges by adapting. When the Ice Age came, we didn't try to melt the glaciers. We learned to make fire and warm clothes. When we wanted to fly, we didn't try to grow wings. We built airplanes. She turned back to face the group. Now we're facing the biggest challenge ever. The aliens want us to prove we belong in their galaxy. We could try to build bigger weapons and stronger ships. We could try to become more like them. Or Helen asked. Lisa smiled. Or we can show them what makes humans special. Our ability to find new solutions. Our willingness to help instead of hurt. Our talent for making friends instead of enemies. Helen stood up and walked to the window beside Lisa. Below them, Earth's cities glowed like jewels in the darkness. Millions of people down there were counting on the 4 people in this room to make the right choice. When do we leave? Helen asked. Tomorrow, Jake said. The alien observers are already on their way to the demonstration site. Commander will be there, along with representatives from all the council species. Closed her tablet. Ambassador, I have to ask, are you worried about what might happen if this doesn't work? Helen thought about the question for a long moment. Then she smiled. Dr. Foster, I've spent 5 years learning about aliens. They're not so different from humans. They want to feel safe. They want to understand the world around them. They want to know they're not alone in the universe. She looked at each of them. What we're planning to show them isn't just advanced science. It's proof that intelligence and kindness can be more powerful than fear and aggression. And I think, deep down, that's exactly what they've been hoping to see. The next day would begin humanity's most important test. But for the first time since the council meeting, Helen felt confident they would pass. The observation ship hung in space like a giant metal whale. Inside its main viewing room, alien delegates pressed against the large windows. Helen Carter stood calmly among them, watching the empty space where the demonstration would happen. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept her face peaceful. "Where is your ship?" asked Commander. His yellow eyes looked annoyed. "We have been waiting for an hour." Helen checked her watch. "The Defiant will arrive exactly on time. Humans are very punctual." Behind, the blue-skinned alien with 4 arms made a sound like laughing. Perhaps they got lost. Human navigation is not very advanced. The crystal-like creature from the system sparkled as it moved closer to the window. Or perhaps they realized they cannot compete with real military power and fled. Helen said nothing. She knew the other aliens were trying to make her nervous. Jake had warned her this would happen. Let them talk, he had said. Actions speak louder than words. Captain Harrison, the human commander of the observation ship, walked over to Helen. "Ambassador, we're getting a message from the Defiant. They're ready to begin." "Thank you, Captain," Helen said loudly enough for all the aliens to hear. "Please tell Admiral Brooks she has permission to proceed." The space in front of them shimmered, and suddenly the EDS Defiant appeared. The human ship looked very small compared to the alien warships scattered around the demonstration area. The battle cruiser was 3 times longer than the Defiant. The destroyer had weapons that were bigger than the entire human vessel. "That tiny ship is your demonstration?" asked the spider-like alien. Its mandibles clicked together in what Helen knew was laughter. "It looks like a toy." "Size is not everything," Helen replied quietly. On the viewing screen, they could see the asteroid field ahead. Thousands of rocks floated in the darkness, some as small as cars, others as big as mountains. The Defiant moved slowly toward the largest asteroid, a huge chunk of rock and metal that was 12 kilometers across. Commander activated his communication device. "Human ship, this is Commander. Are you going to attack the asteroid with weapons?" Admiral Brooks's voice came through the speakers clearly. "No, Commander. We're not going to attack anything. We're going to ask it to change." The aliens looked at each other with confusion. Helen heard several of them making sounds she didn't recognize. Their translators were having trouble with concepts that didn't exist in their languages. "Ask it to change," repeated the four-armed alien. "Rocks cannot hear, they cannot think. This makes no sense." "Watch and learn," Helen said simply. The Defiant stopped moving when it was about 1 kilometer from the asteroid. The human ship looked even smaller next to the giant rock. Helen could see some of the aliens shaking their heads, as if they felt sorry for the humans. Beginning quantum resonance procedure, announced Dr. Foster over the communication channel. All observation ships, please maintain safe distance. What is quantum resonance? Asked the crystal alien. Before Helen could answer, something strange started happening to the asteroid. At first, it was just a tiny vibration. The huge rock began to shake very slightly, like a bell that had been rung with a feather. Impossible, whispered Commander. Nothing is touching it. The vibration grew stronger. Now they could see the asteroid shaking clearly. Dust and small rocks began to break away from its surface. But instead of flying away into space, the debris started moving in perfect circles around the main body. The asteroid is not breaking apart, observed the spider-like alien. It is dancing. Helen smiled. Dr. Foster, would you explain what's happening? His voice came through the speakers, excited but professional. We're using quantum resonance to communicate with the atomic structure of the asteroid. Instead of using force to break it apart, we're asking the atoms to rearrange themselves into a new pattern. The asteroid's vibration changed pitch. Now it was making a sound that could be heard through the ship's hull, a deep humming that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The spinning rocks and dust began to move faster, creating beautiful patterns in the darkness. Sound cannot travel in space, said the four-armed alien. This is not possible. Sound is just vibration, Helen explained. The asteroid is vibrating so strongly that it's creating gravitational waves. Our ships can detect them and turn them into sound we can hear. The humming grew louder and more complex. What had started as a simple tone became a melody, then a harmony, then something that sounded almost like music. The asteroid was singing. Commander's scales changed from green to pale yellow, which Helen knew meant he was afraid. What are you doing to it? We're not doing anything to it, said Admiral Brooks over the communication channel. We're working with it. Every atom in that asteroid wants to be part of something beautiful. We're just showing them how. The asteroid's shape began to change. The rough, irregular surface started to smooth out. The 12-kilometer-wide rock was becoming round, like a perfect sphere. The small rocks and dust that had been orbiting it began to settle back onto the surface, but in organized patterns that looked like art. This is not possible, repeated the crystal alien. Matter cannot be manipulated this way. Dr. Foster's voice came through again. You're thinking about this wrong. You see matter as something solid and unchanging. But atoms are mostly empty space. They're held together by forces that can be influenced if you know how to ask nicely. The asteroid continued to transform. Now it was completely round and smooth. Its surface began to glow with a soft, warm light that came from inside the rock itself. Patterns appeared on the surface, not painted or carved, but grown from the stone itself. Beautiful, whispered one of the aliens. Helen wasn't sure which one had spoken. The patterns on the asteroid's surface became more complex. Mathematical equations appeared, written in symbols that any space-traveling species would understand. The speed of light, the gravitational constant, the relationship between energy and matter. The asteroid had become a textbook written in stone and light. The energy cost, asked Commander quietly. How much power does this require? Less than we use to make breakfast, replied Captain Pierce, the Defiant's tactical officer. The asteroid is doing most of the work itself. We're just providing the instructions. The alien delegates stood in stunned silence. Helen could see their faces reflecting the soft light from the transformed asteroid. Some looked amazed. Others looked confused. A few looked frightened. Why? Asked the spider-like alien finally. Why did you do this? Helen walked closer to the viewing window. The asteroid hung in space before them like a glowing moon, covered in equations and patterns that sparkled in the starlight. Because we can. Because it's beautiful. Because we wanted to show you that power doesn't have to mean destruction. She turned to face the alien delegates. You asked us to demonstrate our strength. This is human strength. We don't conquer our enemies. We don't destroy what we don't understand. We learn. We create. We make things better. The glowing asteroid pulsed once, and new words appeared on its surface in the common galactic language. A gift from humanity to the galaxy. May it remind us that knowledge shared is knowledge. Commander stared at the message for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was very quiet. How long will it last? About 1,000,000 years, said Dr. Foster cheerfully. It's completely stable now. The gravitational forces in this system will keep it in a safe orbit. Anyone who passes through here will be able to see it and learn from it. The observation deck fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's engines. Outside, the transformed asteroid continued to glow, a permanent reminder of what humans could accomplish when they chose creation over destruction. Helen looked around at the alien faces and saw something she had never seen before in their eyes. Respect mixed with wonder. The demonstration was over, but she knew the real test was just beginning. The transformed asteroid continued to glow in the darkness of space. Its perfect sphere shape and dancing lights made it look like a small star. But the aliens watching from the observation ship were not thinking about beauty anymore. They were thinking about power. Commander was the first to break the silence. His yellow eyes were fixed on the glowing rock, and his scales had turned from pale yellow to deep orange. Helen knew this meant he was very afraid. How? He asked in a voice that was barely a whisper. How is this possible? Dr. Foster's voice came through the communication system from the Defiant. Commander, what you saw is just the beginning. The asteroid transformation used about 1% of our ship's power reserves. We barely had to try. The four-armed blue alien stepped back from the viewing window. 1%. But the energy needed to reshape 12 kilometers of solid rock should be enormous. Only if you use force," explained Captain Nick Taylor from the Defiant. "But we don't use force. We use understanding. When you truly know how atoms work, you can convince them to do what you want without fighting them." The spider-like alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. Helen had learned this meant extreme nervousness. If you can do this to asteroids, what can you do to planets? Admiral Brooks answered from the Defiance bridge. "We could reshape continents if we wanted to, turn deserts into oceans, move mountains, change the very structure of worlds. But why would we want to do that?" The crystal alien from Andromeda sparkled brightly, which Helen knew was their version of sweating. "Because you could. Because power like this must be used." "Must it?" asked Helen quietly. All the aliens turned to look at her. "Tell me, what do you think we could do to your ships?" The observation deck became very quiet. Helen could hear the soft humming of the life support systems. Outside, the glowing asteroid continued its slow rotation, displaying new mathematical formulas on its surface. Commander looked at his own battle cruiser floating in the distance. It was a massive ship, built for war, with armor thicker than buildings and weapons that could destroy cities. "Your ship is smaller than ours," he said, but his voice was uncertain. "Size doesn't matter when you can rearrange atoms," Helen replied calmly. "We could turn your hull into flower petals if we wanted to, or transform your weapons into musical instruments, your armor into butterfly wings." The four-armed alien made a sound like choking. "You could do this to living beings as well." Dr. Foster's voice came through the speakers, sounding sad. "We could, but we never would. Life is precious. We use our abilities to create, not to destroy." "But you could," pressed the spider-like alien. "If you chose to, you could unmake any of us. Turn us into dust or stone or gas." "Yes," said Jake's voice from the Defiant. "We could do that. But here's what you need to understand. Humans have had the power to destroy ourselves for hundreds of years. We built weapons that could end all life on our planet, and we chose not to use them. Helen walked closer to the viewing window. The asteroid's glow reflected off her face as she spoke. Every species in this galaxy thinks power means the ability to hurt others. You build bigger guns, thicker armor, stronger ships. You measure strength by how much damage you can cause. She turned to face the alien delegates. But humans learned something different. Real power is the ability to help others. True strength comes from making things better, not worse. The crystal alien's light dimmed to almost nothing. But if you have such abilities, how do we know you won't use them against us? Because, said Admiral Brooks from the Defiant, we're showing them to you freely. If we wanted to conquer the galaxy, we wouldn't announce our capabilities. We would just do it quietly. Commander's scales slowly changed from orange back to yellow. You're giving us a warning. No, Helen said firmly. We're giving you a choice. The alien delegates looked confused. Several of them made sounds in their own languages that the translators couldn't interpret. Helen waited for them to quiet down before continuing. For 5 years, you've treated humans like children. You've assumed we were weak because our ships were small. You've thought we were useless because we didn't threaten anyone. Today, we showed you that you were wrong about our capabilities. She paused, looking at each alien face in turn. But we also showed you something more important. We showed you that having power doesn't mean you have to use it to hurt people. The four-armed alien spoke carefully. What choice are you offering us? Helen smiled. Continue treating us like children if you want. Keep assuming that might makes right. Keep building bigger weapons and stronger armies. But remember what you saw here today. Remember that somewhere in this galaxy, there's a species that could end any war instantly, but chooses not to. Dr. Foster's voice came through the speakers again. We're not threatening anyone. We're just saying that violence isn't the only way to solve problems. Sometimes the thing to do is to be kind instead of cruel. The spider-like alien moved closer to the window. The asteroid, How long did you say it would last? 1,000,000 years, replied Captain Taylor from the Defiant. Anyone who travels through this system will see it. A permanent reminder that creation is more powerful than destruction. Commander activated his personal communication device. All vessels, this is Commander. Stand down all weapon systems. Power down shields. We are not in danger here. The other alien delegates looked at him with surprise. The crystal alien sparkled brightly. Commander, are you certain? If they can do what they claim, then fighting them would be suicide, finished. But more than that, it would be stupid. They're offering us partnership, not conquest. They're showing us a better way. Helen felt relief wash over her. Commander, you understand. I understand that my species has been thinking about power all wrong, replied. We've been building weapons when we should have been building knowledge. We've been trying to defeat our enemies when we should have been trying to make friends. The four-armed alien looked thoughtful. If humans can manipulate matter at the atomic level, think what we could learn from them. Medical advances, engineering breakthroughs, agricultural improvements, environmental restoration, added Dr. Foster enthusiastically. We could clean polluted worlds, restore dead oceans, bring life back to barren planets. The spider-like alien's mandibles stopped clicking. You would share this knowledge with us. Of course, said Helen. That's what friends do. They help each other. The crystal alien's light grew brighter and warmer. I begin to understand. This demonstration was not about showing us your weapons. It was about showing us your wisdom. Admiral Brooks's voice came through the speakers one final time. Every species in this galaxy has focused on becoming strong enough to survive. But humans focused on becoming wise enough to thrive. We learned that the best way to protect yourself is to make sure everyone around you is safe and happy too. Commander looked out at the glowing asteroid one more time. 1,000,000 years, he said quietly. 1,000,000 years for us to remember this lesson. Helen nodded. And hopefully 1,000,000 years of peace. As the observation ship prepared to return to the Galactic Council chambers, Helen felt something she hadn't experienced in weeks: hope. The demonstration had worked better than she had dared to dream. The aliens weren't just impressed by human technology. They were beginning to understand human philosophy. The real test would come at the council meeting. But for the first time since this crisis began, Helen believed that humanity's future in the galaxy was secure. Not because they had proven they were strong, but because they had proven they were wise. Outside, the transformed asteroid continued to glow, a beacon of knowledge in the darkness of space. Its message would shine for 1,000,000 years, reminding everyone who saw it that true power comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to create. The Galactic Council chamber felt different when Helen Carter walked in 3 days later. The same floating lights hung in the air. The same high ceiling stretched above them. But something had changed. The alien delegates watched her with new eyes. Commander stood up as she entered. His scales were a calm blue-green color that Helen had never seen before. "Ambassador Carter," he said formally. "The Council recognizes the human representative." Helen walked to the center of the room just as she had a month ago. But this time she didn't feel small. The aliens didn't look angry or bored. They looked thoughtful. Some even looked nervous. "Honored delegates," Helen began, "Earth has completed the demonstration you requested. We have shown our capabilities as you asked." The spider-like alien clicked its mandibles once slowly. "Yes, you have shown us much more than we expected." Helen nodded. "We hope our demonstration answered your questions about human strength." Commander exchanged glances with the other delegates behind him. It did. But it also raised new questions. Questions about the nature of power itself. The four-armed blue alien stood up. "Ambassador Carter, my species has ruled our region of space for 3,000 years. We have conquered 17 worlds. Our military is feared throughout the galaxy. But watching your demonstration, I realized something troubling. What is that? Helen asked. We are not powerful. We are just destructive. There is a difference. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several aliens made sounds in their own languages. Helen could see some of them nodding, others shaking their heads or equivalent gestures. The crystal alien from Andromeda sparkled as it spoke. For centuries, my people have believed that survival requires dominance. The strong rule, the weak serve. But humans have shown us a different path. What path is that? Asked Helen, though she already knew the answer. The path of creation over destruction. The path of wisdom over force. The path of making allies instead of enemies. Commander activated the chamber's main display screen. It showed an image of the transformed asteroid, still glowing in the 442 system. This has been broadcasting continuously since your demonstration. Ships from across the galaxy have already begun to arrive to study it. Study it? Helen asked. The mathematical formulas on its surface, explained the four-armed alien. They contain knowledge we have been trying to discover for generations. Equations that could revolutionize our understanding of physics. The spider-like alien added. But more than that, it represents a completely different way of thinking about the universe. Instead of seeing matter as something to be forced into submission, you have shown us that it can be persuaded to cooperate. Helen felt a warmth growing in her chest. That's what humans do best. We find ways to work together instead of fighting. Commander's scales shifted to a deeper blue. Ambassador, I must confess something. When we first demanded this demonstration, we expected you to fail. We thought humans were too weak to survive in our galaxy. And now, Helen asked, now we realize that humans are not weak. You are simply operating on a level we didn't understand. It's like we were all playing a game of strength, and you were playing a game of intelligence. The crystal alien sparkled brightly, and intelligence always wins in the end. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. Helen turned to see a delegate she didn't recognize. It was tall and thin, with silver skin that reflected the chamber's lights. "I am Ambassador Kiln of the Stellar Commerce Union. We have been observing this situation with great interest." Helen had heard of the Stellar Commerce Union. They were traders and explorers who stayed neutral in most galactic politics. "What is your position on this matter?" "We have a proposal," Ambassador Kiln said. "The Union would like to invite humanity to join our organization as senior partners." The other aliens looked surprised. Commander Scales turned pale yellow. "Senior partners, but humans are new to space travel." "Age of space travel is irrelevant," Kiln replied smoothly. "Humans have demonstrated capabilities that exceed anything we have seen. More importantly, they have shown wisdom in how they use those capabilities." The four-armed alien leaned forward. "What kind of partnership are you proposing?" "Humans would lead our research and development programs," Kiln explained. "In exchange, they would have access to our trade networks and resources. Think of what we could accomplish together." Helen felt excited but also cautious. "That's a generous offer, but Earth needs to remain independent." "Of course," Kiln agreed. "This would be a partnership of equals. Humans would contribute their knowledge, and we would contribute our experience." Commander stood up again. "Before we discuss new alliances, we must address the original issue. The Empire formally withdraws its demand for military demonstration. Humanity has proven their worth beyond any doubt." The spider-like alien nodded its large head. "The arachnid collective agrees. We also withdraw our objections to human membership in the galactic community." One by one, each alien delegate stood and formally recognized humanity's place in galactic society. The crystal alien, the four-armed blue alien, even species that Helen had never spoken to before. All of them acknowledged that humans belonged among the stars. "Furthermore," Commander continued, The Empire would like to request human assistance with several scientific projects. We have problems that force cannot solve, but wisdom might. What kind of problems? Helen asked. Our oceans are dying from pollution that has built up over centuries. Our attempts to clean them have failed because we keep trying to fight the contamination instead of working with natural processes. The four-armed alien added, "My people have similar issues. Our industrial worlds are poisoned. We need to learn how to heal instead of just dominate." Dr. Foster's voice came through Helen's communication device. She was still aboard the Defiant, monitoring the council session. "Ambassador, those sound like perfect projects for quantum resonance techniques. We could help restore their worlds using the same principles we used on the asteroid." Helen smiled. "Dr. Foster says we would be happy to help, but there's one condition." The aliens looked worried. Commander asked, "What condition?" "You have to let us teach you how to do it yourselves. We won't just fix your problems and leave. We want to share the knowledge so you can solve future problems on your own." The chamber erupted in excited chatter. Aliens spoke rapidly in their own languages. The universal translators couldn't keep up with all the overlapping conversations. Finally, Commander called for order. "Ambassador Carter, are you saying that humans would freely share their most advanced technology?" "Of course," Helen replied. "Knowledge shared is knowledge. When everyone is smarter, everyone benefits." The crystal alien's light pulsed rhythmically. "This goes against everything we thought we knew about power. In our experience, advanced technology is closely guarded. It's a source of military advantage." "Military advantage is useless if everyone is already your friend," Helen pointed out. "We'd rather have allies than enemies." Ambassador Kiln from the Stellar Commerce Union stepped forward. "This confirms our assessment. Humanity represents a new model for galactic civilization, one based on cooperation instead of competition." Jake's voice came through Helen's communication device. Ambassador, we're getting messages from dozens of other species who weren't even at the original demonstration. Word is spreading fast about what humans can do. Good news or bad news? Helen asked. Good news. They're all asking for partnerships, not demanding surrenders. It seems like the whole galaxy is rethinking how they approach relationships with other species. Commander looked around the chamber at his fellow delegates. I believe we need to vote on a new proposal. I move that humanity be granted not just membership in the Galactic Trade Alliance, but a permanent seat on this governing council. Seconded, said the four-armed alien immediately. Agreed, added the crystal alien. The vote was unanimous. Every species present voted to give humanity a voice in galactic government. But more than that, they voted to adopt humanity's philosophy of cooperation over conquest. As the session ended, Helen felt a deep sense of satisfaction. A month ago, Earth had been threatened with expulsion from galactic society. Now, humans were being asked to help lead it. But the most important change wasn't political. It was philosophical. The demonstration at 442 had shown the galaxy that there was a better way to be strong. Not through fear, but through wisdom. Not through destruction, but through creation. Commander approached Helen as the other delegates filed out of the chamber. Ambassador, I have one final question. What is it? The asteroid will continue broadcasting for 1,000,000 years. What do you hope future generations will learn from it? Helen thought for a moment, then smiled. That the universe is big enough for everyone to thrive. That strength without wisdom is just violence waiting to happen. And that the best way to prove you're powerful is to use that power to help others. As the scale shifted to the warmest blue Helen had ever seen. Thank you for teaching us that lesson. As Helen left the council chamber, she looked up at the floating lights and the distant ceiling. The room still felt huge, but she no longer felt small. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not by conquering the galaxy, but by showing it a better way to live. Outside, ships from dozens of worlds waited to escort the human delegation home. But they weren't there as guards or threats. They were there as friends, eager to learn what humanity had to teach.